Yeah, sorry, call got disconnected. Yeah. So you are with Accenture full time or something?
I'm a contractor.
Okay. Who is your parental company?
It's a CST, a Mumbai-based company.
Okay. So how long you are with Accenture?
I was 2.5 years.
Okay. So you are in Bangalore or in Chennai?
I'm in Bangalore.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's start with some basic
Yeah,
technical discussions and we'll move on further.
yeah.
So just to start with, can you please brief me about how does the differential backup work with the SQL Server?
Yeah, the differential backup is the basically takes backup of all the modified changes in classful backup. So
Okay.
when you issue a differential backup command as from the management to the a backup database name, to disk, path file name with a differential, and so it go and refer a bitmap page called DCM. The DCM is something which tracks what are the extents modified in classful backup, and whenever we run a differential backup, if whatever the extents are marked as a change, and it will gather those extents and it will take the backup.
All right. So how does the transaction log backup work?
The transaction log backup basically takes all the transactions from the log file. Okay, so whenever you create a database, it will have two files, minimum of two files like MTF and LDF. So basically, when you run a transaction log backup, so whatever the transactions we have in recoverable state, whatever the VLFs we have in recoverable state, so it takes backup of those transactions and it will perform truncation. So those VLFs will come into the reusable state as you know that our transaction log file is a wraparound file. So whenever it reaches the physical end, it will go back and see if there are any VLFs that are in reusable state. So, so that's how it's actually it's a sequential. Say for example, if I have a hourly transaction log backup, so 10 to 11, 11 o'clock, whatever the transaction backup that we are taking, it will contain transactions that occur between 10 to 11. And whatever the 12 p.m. transaction log backup, it will contain changes from 11 to 12. If something goes
Okay.
wrong with any of our databases, we need to restore all these transaction log backups one by one sequentially once we are done with different backup restore.
Okay. Fine. So how does the bulk recovery model work?
So bulk recovery model, in instances, it is as equal to full recovery model. So, for example, database is in bulk recovery model, and there are no bulk operations performed. So, it's like full recovery model. Okay, and we can achieve point in time recovery. If your database is in bulk recovery model, and if there are any bulk operations performed, so then those bulk operations will be minimally logged into the log file. And when your database is in bulk log recovery model and bulk operations performed, and then your database is crashed, and we may not be able to achieve a point in time recovery.
Good. Um, so let's say I have a situation where I have around 1,000 different objects in my database.
Okay.
Now my requirement is to create my requirement is to give a permission to a particular user where he should be having select on all the tables and execute on all the stored procedures.
Okay.
And the requirement is in future if any new table is added, automatically you should get select permission on the new table and similarly to the new stored procedure. You should get automatically execute permission after you achieve it.
So select execute permission and stored procedures and select permission on all the objects, right?
Yes, all the tables and some functions.
Okay. So for select operation, we can give data reader permission. So you don't want to at entire database. So you just want to at on certain tables. Is that
No, it's entire database. Entire database.
So if you want to perform a read operation, you can do database read, data read at database level role assigned to that particular user, and at the same time we can grant execute permission on the required store procedures. Or else
The requirement is if a new store procedure is added,
okay.
you should not be going manually and adding execute for that particular new procedure. That user should get automatically execute permission on the new store procedure as well.
Okay. So in that case, we can create one custom role, like we can create one custom role, and for that we can give both select and execute store procedure grants, and we can assign that role to that particular user.
Alright. Have you worked on partitioning of tables?
Partitioning, I did not get the opportunity in my current environment, but I have basic understanding, like when you want to partitioning, like we need to create partition function and partition schema, and we need to come up with on what basis we need to partition the data and to which data file we need to flush that data. So that can be like, we can say, for example, we can create a partitioning based on a date column. So based on the case of if any record comes to that particular table from the date of 2011, and we can define it has to go to some NDF, and if it comes to 2012 date, and it has to go to another data file. So that's how I did not have a answer, but I have an idea. I can manage it.
Okay. So in your current environment, how do you do the monitoring of your databases?
So we have a third-party tool called Hotspot. So we have all the environment configured, and from there we get alerts.
So do you know how to set up, if there is no monitoring tool, how can we monitor this SQL server?
Yeah, so we can use our database mail concept, and we can create alerts within the SQL server, native SQL server alerts, and if you want to monitor a group of SQL servers, their instance state, their status, and also we can go for creating some centralized scripts, and there we can have a logic to test the connectivity between all the servers, and wherever if it is not able to connect, and we should have some mechanism to write into some log file saying that so-and-so server is so-and-so instance is down, and that information we can get on our email using database concept. I have experience with writing or creating native alerts also. Yeah.
Okay. So have you worked with clustering?
Yes.
So what was your role and responsibility when it comes to clustering?
So I'm involved in cluster configuration to node active cluster. And there, basically I was mainly responsible for SQL part. So gathering all the information and working with corresponding teams like Windows team and storage team, network team to get all the prerequisites need to be configured, and then I am involved in cluster configuration and performing manual failovers and applying service packs. Okay. These are the things I have involved.
Okay. So when there is a requirement for installation, so as a DBA for the prerequisite, you will look after when a new installation is given to you for a clustering environment.
Yeah, the first and foremost thing is we need to have the Windows level failover clustering is to be set up, and we need to work with storage guys to get all the appropriate drives configured for our cluster, and then IP addresses. So we need to work with network folks to get the required IPs. So in case of
how many IP addresses you need?
Sorry?
So let's say Windows cluster is already built. Now in order to implement it, cluster, how many IP addresses you need?
Yeah, in case of that count will vary depending on the number of nodes.
No, so you should understand the question clearly. So the Windows cluster is ready. You don't need to worry about the Windows cluster.
Okay.
As a SQL DBA, you need to install a SQL cluster on top of the Windows cluster.
Okay.
So in order to install SQL cluster, how many setups is it?
We need only one IP for SQL. So after the Windows level is done and all public and private IPs are configured and cluster IP will be configured and the MSDDC which is optional from 2008 onwards, but for SQL side we need only one additional IP. If it is only one SQL, yeah.
What else you look for? What else is required for this?
Then we do go to Windows Failure Cluster Manager and run the validation report. So there will be an option called validate this cluster, and so if it will just validate all the rules and it will give us a report. And if we see anything comes as a rate or any error, and we need to work with appropriate teams, or if it is something from our side, we need to fix the things. So once everything comes as a green, and then that means we are good to go ahead with our installation. So anyway, before that, we need to have all the information like what would be the instance name and what would be the service accounts that we need to use along with the passwords, and we need to gather all the information as per the checklist, and then we can start installation.
Yes. So what about the service account?
Yeah, that's what I mentioned. So we need service account, and we for whatever the services that we are installing. Depending on that, we need to get service accounts created with Windows team, and one main thing that installation is we need to have this cluster services must be the startup type must be manual. So that is one precaution we need to take in case of cluster installation.
Okay. Have you worked on a large scale databases?
So we have up to 1.5 terabytes.
Okay, so when you work with such huge database, so what were your roles while working on that database?
So I was taking care of backup and recoveries, and also mainly for these kind of databases, the performance would be the most concern because the data volume would be more and the users would be more, and mostly we get concerns from customers like we are seeing slow response on some of the modules. Our application itself is responding very slow. So in such cases, like we do see what exactly happening in the system. So are there any blockings occurring or any deadlocks occurring? And we check fragmentation. So as the database is very big and it will have so many indexes and the indexes get fragmented more frequently. So in such cases, even though we have our weekly maintenance, weekly index maintenance, and sometimes for some of the indexes gets fragmented more, and then because of that, the associated queries start running slow. So in that case, we identify the fragmentation by running this RTM underscore DG underscore physical index stats, and it will give us index-wise fragmentation percentage. And if we find any index having over 30% fragmentation, we go for rebuilding that index, and if it is between 10 to 30%, we re-add that index. So apart from that, we do check statistics whether they are up to date or not. If not, we update statistics. And if it is concerning, if any customer is concerning about particular module or particular stored procedure, And we do see the execution plan and what kind of operations it is performing and what is the estimated number of rows coming and what is the actual number of rows coming. And then if required, we take the store push here to the environment and we run the profiler with appropriate events added and we capture all the content to trace and we use the trace output to the DBA and then that's how we do see the recommendations from DBA and if any new indexes needs to be required, we add them in the environment and we test thoroughly. And if we see good improvement and we batch those indexes to production. Yeah. So that's some of the things that we usually do on large scale databases.
Okay. So generally, your 1.5 terabyte database, how much time it takes to take a full backup?
So it takes about 6 to 7 hours with the normal native backups, and we have scheduled it for the where there are no other activities. So it's a Sunday, it's the midnight. And even that is also very useful for that. Our team is thinking to go for light speed, so that the discussions are going on to have it for all the critical databases.
Okay. So what are the different high-level differences that you have worked with?
So as I mentioned, clustering already. So apart from that, I worked for log shipping, database mirroring, transaction replication, and basic answer and others.
Okay. So replication. So what type of replication?
Transaction replication.
Okay. So what are the prerequisites for setting up the transaction replication?
So yeah, a transaction replication of whatever the objects you want to configure for transaction replication, the table must contain a primary key. So whatever the tables we have a primary key, only those tables are eligible for transaction replication. So before that, like we will have components like publisher, distributor, and subscriber. We need to configure a distributor. Like a distributor is some kind of mediator between publisher and subscriber. And then we need to create a publication in the publisher database. So where we will select all the articles, and then once the publication is created, and snapshot will be generated for that. Snapshot agent will be executed, and it will create the snapshot file, and it will place it to the snapshot folder. From there, when you configure the subscription, and distributor agent will be executed, and it will perform the initial synchronization with all the subscribers. And from there, whatever the incremental transactions occurring on the publisher side, so log reader agent will be running. It will again load those incremental transactions to distribution database. From there, the distribution agent will take those transactions or commands to subscribers. So the totally it works on based on different agents that will be created when you configure replication. So depending on the replication type that you choose, and the different agents will be created to perform this data replication.
So basically within a transactional replication, when any transactions happen on the publisher, where it goes from?
So the transaction happened on publisher side and it goes to distributor.
Okay.
So from there, there will be like ripple transactions and ripple commands. So when you query that from the distribution database, we can see what all the transactions reaches the distribution database, and from there, whatever the transactions are available in the distribution database, that from those two tables, distribution database, the distribution agent will push or pull those changes to subscribers, as commands to subscribers.
Okay. So basically, Pawan, I am done with the interview.
Okay.
See, I have an open feedback for you.
Okay.
At your level of experience, you are very good.
Okay.
But never mind. I just want to give you a hint. So when you come for a face-to-face interview, you might end up having similar questions.
Okay.
I hope it is actually you that you should be able to answer without any issues.
Yeah.
Because I'm surprised to see that at your level, having such a very good knowledge is really surprising.
Yeah.
But it's a great achievement if you have that is a good achievement. That's what I can see.
Thanks.
Yeah. So any questions you have for me?
When can I expect the face-to-face round?
That is, see, I will send my feedback to the HR.
Okay.
They will internally work and then they will get back to you for the next round and the things will work from there end. Because basically this is for a different project where I am not part of the project.
Okay.
So as part of the initial screening, I'm taking the interview. So I will just sending my feedback and then from there the actual project team will come into the picture and they will see and they will take it forward depending on the situation.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Nice to talk to you.
Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Same to you.